My videos don't necessarily promote one religion. My views and opinions aren't meant to change the minds, opinions, or beliefs of others. Watch with an open mind. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, entertainment, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All rights and credit go directly to its rightful owners. No copyright infringement is intended. We continue to uncover the profound wisdom within the timeless scriptures. Take care, and God bless.
Humans, the dominant species on the planet Earth. We build the most incredible machines and can explore outer space or even send cars into it. But have you ever wondered, how did the human species get started? One branch would lead to the tarsiers, while the other gave rise to the anthropoids. This is where our story starts. The anthropoids would go on to include all monkeys, apes, and humans. But at first glance, there was little to distinguish them from any other primate. As the brain grew, so did the skull. By 25 million years ago, the average anthropoid had a brain roughly twice the size of their Australopithecine ancestors. This allowed them to become more intelligent, curious, and social animals capable of developing complex language and engaging in abstract thought. Some anthropologists believe this period also saw the emergence of the first hominoids, a group that includes humans, chimpanzees, and gorillas. These primates had even larger brains and were fully capable of using tools and creating rudimentary weapons. These small, agile primates were perfectly adapted for life in the trees. They used their long arms and hooked feet to swing from branch to branch, where they ate fruit and leaves. These early humans had larger brains and smaller bodies than their Asian cousins. They also had shorter, stronger arms and longer legs. This adaptation allowed them to walk long distances quickly without getting tired. The Australopithecines suddenly disappeared from the fossil record, replaced by a new group of hominins. These primates had even larger brains and smaller bodies than their predecessors. They also had flatter faces, smaller noses, and thinner skulls. This group would eventually give rise to the Homo genus, which includes the Neanderthals and us. Our species has been around for about 300,000 years, which is a long time to be alive. Climate change, disease, and war are just a few of the threats that we're facing. But we've overcome tough times before, and we'll probably make it through whatever comes next. After all, we're the most intelligent and adaptable species on the planet. We've seen a lot of changes during that time, and we've made a lot of progress. But we've also made some mistakes. We've caused a lot of damage to the environment, and we've started wars and committed atrocities against other humans. But we're also a very adaptable and resilient species. We've been able to survive and thrive in all kinds of environments, and we've come up with some amazing innovations. It also made them more efficient hunters, able to catch prey or defend themselves against predators. They had high, rounded skulls, small faces, and chin. The first were the Neanderthals, a stocky, muscular species with short, strong limbs and a receding forehead. They lived in Europe and parts of Asia from about 40,000 to 45,000 years ago. The Neanderthals were skilled hunters and tool makers, but they went extinct around 40,000 years ago. Most scientists believe that Homo sapiens outcompeted them for resources, killed them intentionally, or interbred with them to the point that they ceased to exist as a distinct species. Homo sapiens had larger brains and were more intelligent than any previous hominin. They were also the first to develop language and abstract thought. Because of these adaptations, Homo sapiens were able to spread quickly across the globe. These African hominins would eventually give rise to the genus Australopithecus, which includes several species that lived in Africa between 4 and 2 million years ago. Scientists believe the hominins and gibbons may have interacted with each other, possibly competing for resources or even mating. Like the Neanderthals, the Denisovans were skilled hunters and tool makers, but they went extinct around 10,000 years ago. Again, most scientists believe that Homo sapiens outcompeted them for resources, killed them intentionally or interbred with them, to the point that they ceased to exist as a distinct species. If this is true, then the gibbons may have contributed to the genetic makeup of the hominins, making them more ape-like. They were still quadrupedal, covered in fur, and communicated through a combination of calls and gestures. They also developed a Y-shaped groove on their back, which allowed them to walk more efficiently on two legs. This group would eventually give rise to the orangutans, the only surviving members of the genus Pongo. That would have to wait until much later. For the next 20 million years, the hominoids were largely confined to the forests of Africa. One group would evolve into modern chimpanzees and bonobos, while the other would eventually give rise to gorillas. Australopithecines were small, no taller than a modern woman, and had long, sloping foreheads, large eyes, and prominent brow ridges. Their teeth were also small with the exception of the canines and the first two lower molars, which were large and rectangular. Scientists believe these features indicate a diet consisting of plants, fruit, nuts, and small animals. They were small, no bigger than a chimpanzee, and had short, flat faces with small noses and thick lips. Their brains were about the same size as a chimpanzee's, and they probably had similar social structures and communication abilities. Despite their limitations, they were remarkably adaptable and could be found in a variety of habitats across Africa. Their teeth were also small, with the exception of the canines, which were large and sharp. Scientists believe these features are evidence of a diet consisting mainly of fruit and plants, supplemented by insects and small animals. But the hominins were not the only primates living outside of Africa. Meanwhile, another group of hominoids, the hominins, would begin to walk upright on two legs. This adaptation freed up their hands, allowing them to carry food, tools, and even their young. It also gave them a better view of their surroundings, making them more alert to potential predators or food sources. They were too big and clumsy to thrive in the trees, but not yet adapted enough to walk upright on two legs. Their long arms and short legs made them well suited for knuckle walking, a form of locomotion that has been observed in chimpanzees and gorillas. This means that during this time they probably spent much of their time on the ground, moving around on all fours like dogs. However, over the next 25 million years, several dramatic changes took place that would eventually lead to the emergence of Homo sapiens. How did we go from being just another primate species to becoming the most technologically advanced civilization in the known universe? Again, one group would continue to resemble tarsiers, while the other would become old-world monkeys. These primates began to develop traits that would define them for hundreds of millions of years. They developed fully opposable thumbs, allowing them to grasp branches and objects with great dexterity. Their hands also became flexible, enabling them to perform fine motor tasks like picking up small objects. These adaptations allowed them to exploit new food sources and survive in a variety of environments. But perhaps the most significant change was the gradual increase in brain size relative to body size. And what will happen to our species in the future? These are some of the questions that have kept scientists up at night for decades. But after years of research and excavations, finally, an international team of scientists have discovered the surprising answer to how the human species got started. And they say the story begins not with the first member of the Homo genus, but with a small group of primates that lived in Africa about 60 million years ago. These animals were neither human nor monkey, but they were the ancestors of both. Like all primates, they had grasping hands, flexible feet, and forward-facing eyes. But unlike their descendants, they were quadrupedal, meaning they walked on four legs. They also had tails, although their offspring would soon evolve to lose this feature. Scientists believe these ancient primates were about the size of a house cat, nocturnal, and ate a diet consisting mainly of insects and fruit. Around 45 million years ago, the species split into two major groups. The first major change occurred around 35 million years ago, when the anthropoids split into two branches. Scientists believe that this change was driven by a number of factors, including the need to navigate complex social structures, communicate more effectively, and solve problems in new and unfamiliar situations. But despite their intelligence and adaptability, the hominoids never achieved dominance. It wasn't until about 10 million years ago that the hominoids split into two separate branches. Over the next few million years, the hominins would spread out of Africa and into Asia and Europe. In fact, they would soon encounter a group of anthropoids that had already arrived in Asia, the gibbons. As the Asian hominins continued to evolve, their brains grew larger, their bodies became more robust, and their faces became more flattened. Meanwhile, in Africa, another group of hominins was beginning to emerge. The most famous member of this genus is Australopithecus afarensis, which includes the famous fossil Lucy. Although the Australopithecines were physically strong, they were not very intelligent. But around 2.5 million years ago, something remarkable happened. The Homo sapiens emerged about 300,000 years ago in Africa. However, they were not alone. In fact, they would soon encounter other members of the Homo genus. But the story doesn't end there. The Homo sapiens also encountered another group of archaic humans, the Denisovans, in Siberia and China. Today, Homo sapiens are the only living members of the Homo genus. What will the future hold for our species? Who knows? But one thing is for sure, Homo sapiens are sure to face many challenges in the years to come. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment below. If you have any suggestions for future videos, thanks for watching. See you next time.